That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
I'm not going to lie to you. I am not in a good place right now. I was on top of the world thinking that we were going to get multiple teams advancing in the big dog tournament on Underdog. Multiple teams with a very real chance at $100,000. I was dreaming of doing the live stream, winning the money on the live. I was dreaming of it. But a couple of those teams that were supposed to advance have Travis Kelce on them. Let me rephrase that. All the teams that were looking like they were going to advance have Travis Kelce on them. And if Kelce does not play on Sunday, my day will be ruined. My life will be ruined. But nonetheless, we're going to try to ignore all that. We're going to try to ignore the fact that the NFL is falling apart. And this video probably isn't going to be worth a damn 3 days after it's recorded because every one of these players is going to be on the COVID list. But nonetheless, let's dive into it anyway. Let's try to be the best that we can in ranking these running backs for Week 16 because we got a lot of the line. Obviously, we're still in the fantasy football playoffs, even though things look so damn random at this point. Before we get into it, please go down there, drop that like, leave a comment. Nobody watching this is not subscribed to the channel already. And also, if you have not done so, I don't know why. If you have enjoyed these videos so far this season, go support the channel. Use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. Go check out some of those player props. Go get in a draft with us on the live stream. Go make your first deposit with promo code FLOCK and get that first deposit match dollar for dollar up to 100. Please go take advantage of that. You can find the link in the live stream. You can find it in the description of the video. You can find it in the comment section. I don't know what's going on at this point. Let's get into these rankings. Let's lead it off. Running back one at the very top, obviously, Jonathan Taylor. There's nothing to say. Last week, I mean, it looked like he had a very tough matchup going up against the New England Patriots. We said, I don't care that the matchup's tough. He's the running back one anyway. And no, I mean, Duke Johnson was the running back one because that's how last week went, but he still came out 170 rushing yards. I mean, this man cannot be stopped. You're going through and you're playing Jonathan Taylor every week. Doesn't matter the matchup against Cardinals. Next question. Let's go over to Austin Ekeler at our running back two. Now, right now with Ekeler, I mean, the reports earlier on Monday were saying, okay, he's on the COVID list. Then the reports Monday night were saying, wait, he wasn't placed on the COVID list. Is it going to get placed on Tuesday? He wasn't at practice. We don't know. But what we do know is they're going up against the Houston Texans with the new COVID protocols. Hopefully, even if he's placed on the list on Tuesday, he would have a chance of coming off. Praying for that because obviously, I mean, a lot of those teams that drafted Austin Ekeler are in the fantasy football playoffs because of Austin Ekeler. And this should be, I mean, a super easy spot to be able to effectively move the ball down the field against the Houston Texans. And now let's go down a tier of running backs. Let's go over to our running back three here in Alvin Kamara. Now, with Alvin Kamara, I mean, it's not like he came out here and lit the world on fire or anything against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You weren't necessarily expecting him to, just knowing that, hell, I mean, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have the best run defense in the NFL. And with Kamara, we kind of saw the downside here. I mean, we discussed this a ton with Taysom Hill taking over at quarterback. The fact that Taysom Hill's not going to be checking the ball down as often. The fact that Taysom Hill can steal some usage at the goal line. So with Alvin Kamara, I mean, he only comes away with 2 receptions this past week, which only gives him 5 fantasy points. Obviously, something you're not accustomed to. Now, this matchup in particular against the Miami Dolphins, I think it should be significantly better than what he had last week. And I know a lot of people want to say, oh, Mason, don't you know Miami's elite now? Don't you know they went from being 1-7 to now 7? I get it, but at the end of the day, right now, Vegas does have the New Orleans Saints favored in this game. I'll tell you right now, Vegas knows more than you. They know more than myself. I mean, the Saints should be able to move the ball down the field against the Miami Dolphins here. We are going to have Alvin Kamara as the top 3 running back. And our running back 4 is going to be Dalvin Cook going up against the Los Angeles Rams. Now, you will get Alexander Mattison back for this game, which is one of the reasons that we are going to have Dalvin Cook here at running back 4. It doesn't really matter. We need to stop talking about these running backs at the top because obviously if Kamara plays, you play him. Obviously, if Dalvin plays, play him. Doesn't matter where we have these guys ranked. Let's go down to the next here. Let's go to our running back 5. It's going to be Nick Chubb. I mean, with Nick Chubb, I mean, this is definitely a ranking based on the idea that you do not have Kareem Hunt. Now, if Kareem Hunt somehow is able to make it back from his ankle injury, Kareem Hunt should be off the COVID list, but he's also dealing with the ankle injury. Then you will move Nick Chubb probably down a tier. He's coming off a week, though, where he had, 23 carries, 91 rushing yards, the rushing touchdown. You just know that the workload with no Kareem Hunt in this offense is going to be so much larger than it previously would be. This is a running back coming off a game with 16 fantasy points, and, really, the Cleveland Browns were decimated throughout the entire roster. This game had to get postponed because, they were missing so many players from the COVID list. I'd imagine that Cleveland is a little bit better this next week without Nick Mullins. So we will have Nick Chubb at running back 5. And our running back 6 will be James Robinson on the pitiful Jacksonville Jaguars offense. What's nice, though, is I don't know if you heard this, but the New York Jets are pretty damn bad as well. The New York Jets allowed Duke Johnson to be the running back 1 in fantasy this past week. And with James Robinson, of course, you want to be monitoring if we're going to get Carlos Hyde or not this week. I'd imagine that we probably don't get Carlos Hyde rushed back. There's no reason to rush back a 33-year-old running back. Probably not 33, but regardless, a very old running back that has no future with the team on a lost season. With James Robinson, he had 6 targets this past week. He also had 18 carries out of the backfield, 18 points against the Houston Texans. And as we just said, Duke Johnson was the running back 1 against the New York Jets overall last week. And I'm no mathematician here, but I think that James Robinson's a better running back than Duke Johnson. And our next running back 7, is going to be down a tier. And I don't know who this is going to be. It's going to be the starting running back for the 49ers. Now, your guess is as good as mine, but I would assume, I don't want to assume anything because Elijah Mitchell has cleared concussion protocol. But Elijah Mitchell also has a knee injury. And right now, Kyle Shanahan isn't making it sound that great. The chances that Elijah Mitchell goes out here and plays this game. So it doesn't matter for me if it's going to be Elijah Mitchell or Jeff Wilson, to be completely honest, because at the end of the day, this should be, I don't want to say a good matchup against Tennessee because obviously this Tennessee Titans run defense has been pretty good this year. They just shut down Najee Harris. But this should be a game that the 49ers lead the majority of the time. The 49ers have been looking to run the ball over and over and over again. Jeffrey Wilson was the running back 3 in fantasy this past week. Jeffrey Wilson had 21 carries, 110 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown. They're using him, as that 3-down running back. They're kind of making Deebo Samuel a little bit more like a wide receiver, and they are definitely not using JaMychal Hasty whatsoever. So I think based on all of this, you can go through and you can play the starting running back for the 49ers, whether it's Jeffrey Wilson or Elijah Mitchell. Honestly, I think that if Elijah Mitchell were to miss, and I know a lot of people are going to hate me for saying this, I think I'd rank Jeffrey Wilson higher than I would Elijah Mitchell, given the fact that if Elijah Mitchell plays, he's probably going to be in a pseudo committee. He'll definitely be the lead running back, seeing about 80% of the snaps compared to Jeffrey Wilson, maybe with 20%. Whereas if Elijah Mitchell misses, we've already seen Jeffrey Wilson's getting 100% of the snaps and JaMychal Hasty is getting 0. And now let's go down to our next running back in this tier, running back 8. This will be DAndre Swift. Now with Swift, this is another situation we're going to have to continue to monitor if he's going to play. I want to say that he has a shot to, because the last report that we had came out earlier on Monday said he's expected to practice this week. If he's expected to practice, he has missed the past 3 weeks and they decided not to put him on the IR. I'd imagine if they wanted to shut DAndre Swift down for the season, they would have probably done so already. So I think you can go through and you can look to play DAndre Swift if he is active, based on the fact that they're going up against the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons just allowed Jeffrey Wilson to be the running back 3 in fantasy. Now, Jared Goff was placed in the COVID list. That's something we're going to have to monitor as well. But we can say that about every NFL offense at this point of the week. Of course, we'll be live streaming every single day. Make sure you're subscribed if for whatever reason you're not already. And we'll be giving you those constant updates. And now our last running back in this tier. So we have Elijah Mitchell, DAndre Swift in this tier, as well as Najee Harris. With Najee Harris, I know a pitiful week this past week. And this Pittsburgh Steelers offense looks like potentially one of the worst offenses in the entire NFL. I kind of want to say that. If you watched that game against the Tennessee Titans last week, what would happen is, the Titans would turn it over and they'd be in field goal range. It'd be a 3-and-out from Pittsburgh, but it didn't really matter because, you would get the kicker Boswell just walking right onto the field based on the defense, getting the ball turned over in the nice area of the field and being able to nail the field goal. With Najee Harris, he's getting the workload. He's playing every single snap. It's going to be hard to have him outside the top 10. And then going down a tier, let's go over to Aaron Jones at running back 10. With Aaron Jones still continuing to get a role in the red zone this past week. I mean, he also has the role as the receiving running back. Was pretty damn good against a solid Baltimore Ravens run defense. He does come out, he gets 15 fantasy points, but you should expect some regression for Aaron Jones coming soon because this is a running back that has had 18 carries over the past 2 weeks and the rushing touchdown. He's had 5 receptions and 2 receiving touchdowns as well. He's not going to continue to score a touchdown on 1 out of like every 8 touches. There's no way that's sustainable. Aaron Jones is still losing touches to AJ Dillon at the same time. So I know a lot of people probably want to have Aaron Jones over Najee Harris or such. I can't do it. And our next running back in this tier is going to end up being David Montgomery going up against the Seattle Seahawks. Now, right now, I'm recording this in the 4th quarter of the Chicago Bears-Minnesota Vikings game. So if David Montgomery goes down in the last play, you're probably not even going to see this analysis. Actually, Thomas, you can just cut it if that happens. But here with David Montgomery so far, I mean, you've seen exactly what you wanted to this game. You see a running back that's in a very similar situation to Najee Harris in one of the worst offenses in the NFL. But, I mean, even if he's in one of the worst offenses in the NFL, at least he's not Saquon Barkley. At least he's coming out and actually getting every single touch out of his own backfield. And then our last running back in this tier is actually going to end up being Joe Mixon. And with Joe Mixon here, I don't necessarily want to go all in because right now he has an ankle injury. And we kind of saw earlier this year, even if Joe Mixon is active, there's a real chance that given the injury, they end up deciding to expand the role of Samaje Perine. So this is going to be something I want to continue to monitor the injury reports. Also a really tough matchup against the Baltimore Ravens. I know Cincinnati looked really bad this week, but the Denver Broncos just have a legit defense that we've seen week in and week out. So Joe Mixon wasn't in a position to be very successful last week, but not in one either this week. Now going over to our running back 13, this will be Antonio Gibson. With Antonio Gibson, it's hard to rank him because this game hasn't been played. I mean, this is throwing off everything, the fact that we have these Tuesday games. Of course, we'll continue to give updates on Antonio Gibson. We'll be live streaming after the games tomorrow. But my initial assumption is, hell, Antonio Gibson is continuing to expand his role in this offense. If J.D. McKissic's going to be out, you're going to need to move Antonio Gibson up to being a top 10 running back. But I'm expecting that J.D. McKissic plays, and I'm expecting that J.D. McKissic has the 3rd down role. And our running back 14 will be Cordell Patterson. I mean, with Cordell Patterson, he just continues to lose touches to Mike Davis every single week. But this week, hell, he has a great matchup. He is going up against the Detroit Lions. And I understand that the Detroit Lions just made the Arizona Cardinals look like a college football team. That's not going to happen again. I mean, every NFL season, it's any given Sunday. I mean, you just see the most random things happen time in and time out. But I think we can go through and you can just play Cordell Patterson, knowing that the Atlanta Falcons should be able to put points up on the board. And then our next running back is also going to be a running back that plays on Tuesday, so we don't have a lot to say. Darrell Henderson. And Henderson can be a running back that falls down these rankings a ton with a bad performance on Tuesday because there's a real chance that Sony Michel comes out and Sony Michel expands his role in this offense based on how impressive that Sony Michel has been over the past 2 weeks. Now, Darrell Henderson, I mean, off the COVID list, I'd imagine that Darrell Henderson goes back to being the lead running back, one of the most productive offenses in the NFL. But with all that being said, I still think that this will be a situation that we have to monitor on Tuesday. We have to adjust accordingly. Darrell Henderson, if he comes out, he plays 80% of the snaps. You definitely need to be moving him up this range. But I'm expecting that maybe this turns into a pseudo committee here in Los Angeles. And then our last running back in this tier, actually, you know what? Let's drop him down a tier. There's no reason to have him here if he's going to be in a committee. Let's go down a tier and let's go over to Ezekiel Elliott at running back 16. Now, with Zeke, the issue is Tony Pollard looks better. Tony Pollard continues to look better. Even with Tony Pollard, I mean, supposedly having the serious injury and Ezekiel Elliott being 100%. I mean, I'm not buying into the reports that Ezekiel Elliott's still 100%. As we've said time and time again, it doesn't really matter too much that Tony Pollard looks better than. You can't play Tony Pollard over him just because with Ezekiel Elliott, this is the guy that has the role in the red zone. This is the player with the touchdown upside. But still, I'm worried if I'm an Ezekiel Elliott owner. I think you obviously had a great matchup this past week against the Giants. It's going to be a little bit of a tougher one going up against Washington. Now our next running back will be Josh Jacobs going up against the Denver Broncos. And with Josh Jacobs, I mean, It's boring. This offense looks very bad. I think that if Darren Waller is able to come back in, Darren Waller should dramatically improve the overall state of the Las Vegas Raiders and their ability to pick up first downs. I mean, just think about it. Right now, their top options are Zay Jones and Hunter Renfrow. Like it's hard to expect them to be able to move the ball down the field. I think you really need to hope that we get a change here, and that would move Josh Jacobs up the rankings, because Josh Jacobs, with no Kenyon Drake, I know Peyton Barber got some snaps. That's not something that's going to continue to happen going forward. Looking like he's going to be that 3-down bell cow. And then our next running back in this tier looks like we'll have him around running back 18. Is going to be Saquon Barkley. With Barkley, one of the biggest busts in fantasy this season, not only based on the injuries, but I guess you can say based on injuries in general, because now, I mean, with injuries to every player for New York, I mean, this is just one of the, if not the worst offenses in the NFL. We got a report today saying that Daniel Jones will be out rest of season, and you're looking like you're probably going to get Jake Fromm this week. And with Saquon Barkley, we can't just blame it on the injuries to the offense and the offense being really bad. I mean, you can tell we have him ranked behind guys like David Montgomery. We have him ranked behind, I mean, players like Najee Harris, other players that are in horrendous offenses. Now, the difference here is with Saquon Barkley, he's not getting every touch out of the backfield. I mean, he is losing touches to Devontae Booker, which is something I did not expect. I was wrong on this. I was laughably wrong. Historically speaking, I mean, whenever you viewed the Saquon Barkley workload, I mean, he was someone that was coming out and just looking like that Christian McCaffrey level player with his level of involvement as a receiver, with the amount of snaps that he's playing. That's just not the case right now. I don't know if it's because it's a lost season for the Giants. I don't know if it's because this is a team that, I mean, is looking to extend Saquon Barkley this year and he's dealt with a ton of injury. I don't know why they're using Devontae Booker as much as they are, but it has to dramatically lower your expectations with Saquon Barkley. And our last running back in this tier is going to end up being Ronald Jones going up against the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, stepping in for Leonard Fournette. And no, he's not going to be a top 5 running back as you're expecting with Leonard Fournette to be at any week that he's healthy. The reason for that is this Leonard Fournette workload will most likely be divided between the combination of Ronald Jones and Keyshawn Vaughn. Ronald Jones isn't going to be able to get up to the 6-7 targets out of the backfield every single game that you saw from Leonard Fournette, but he should get the primary workload on first and second down here. So I think you can go through, and I think you can play Ronald Jones in a game where I know that this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense looked really bad this past week. It's going to get better. It's not like Tom Brady's going to be shut out like he was this past week against the Saints. Now let's go down a tier of running backs. Let's go over to running back 20. This will be A.J. Dillon going up against the Cleveland Browns. With A.J. Dillon, he continues to show us that he's going to have a very large role in Green Bay. As we've said before, I still want Aaron Jones over him because Aaron Jones, while, I mean, you definitely have to lower him down your own rankings, Aaron Jones is still the guy getting the valuable touches here. A.J. Dillon does come away with a touch close to the goal line. He does come away with a rushing touchdown, which is promising, but also he actually sees less carries than Aaron Jones this week and only had 1 target out of the backfield. And now going over to see what we'll have at running back 21, we're going to be going to James Conner going up against the Indianapolis Colts. With James Conner, I mean, Chase Edmonds is here. Chase Edmonds is going to see that large role. So, you know, I mean, before the Chase Edmonds injury, every single week we'd have James Conner down here as a low-end running back too. He's touchdown dependent. It's if you get a touchdown, hooray. If you don't, you're looking at 5 fantasy points. Now, as soon as Chase Edmonds goes down, you rank James Conner as a top 10 running back every single week because he's going to be a 3-down player in Arizona. He's no longer that 3-down player. This is a 50-50 backfield yet again. And this Indianapolis Colts defense just shut down Ramondre Stevenson this past week. Now, our next running back, last running back in this tier will be Devin Singletary going up against the New England Patriots. If it wasn't for the brutal matchup against New England here, I think we would have Devin Singletary a little bit higher than this because Singletary was the 3-down running back for the Buffalo Bills this past week, playing every single snap. I think that you can definitely trust Devin Singletary moving forward. And now let's drop it down a tier. Let's go over to our last 2 running backs. And this is going to be Javonte Williams going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. With Javonte, y'all know I was all in on the break. I mean, continue to say that Javonte Williams was a buy low running back in the middle of the season. We went through, had the Javonte Williams dance party after he broke out, thinking that hopefully Melvin Gordon didn't come back and Melvin Gordon didn't see 50% of the touches in this backfield. And instead, we were hoping that he saw 25%, and that would have allowed Javonte Williams to have that elite level breakout. Well, simply we're not getting that. I mean, here with Javonte's in a 50-50 timeshare with Melvin Gordon, and that's not going to get it done. And now our last running back will be Clyde Edwards-Helaire going up against Pittsburgh with CEH. Yes, he looked horrendous this past week. And I actually ranked Clyde Edwards-Helaire aggressively this past week. I mean, with the assumption this is going to be a very high-scoring offense, a very high-scoring game, and the Los Angeles Chargers have a very bad run defense. Well, all of those things were true, but apparently it didn't freaking matter. Clyde Edwards-Helaire only scoring 8 fantasy points. Hopefully it gets better. That's all I got to say. And yeah, thank you so much for checking out the video. Really hope that y'all enjoyed it. Really hope that you got something from it. Please go down there, drop that like, leave a comment letting me know how stupid I am. Subscribe to everybody here. Subscribe. That's all I got. Hope you have a great day and hope we get to see you out in the live stream tonight.